Flint, you wanted to talk to us about kind of a follow-up to last week. I know Matt talked about last week about CES and autonomous trucks was all in the news, and now you want to talk to us a little bit more about autonomous trucks. What do you got? What did you see?
Well, yeah, look, I mean, we talked a lot about last week about kind of how some of this autonomous technology would, improve the industry and all this stuff. And so then there was this article that I saw in FreightWaves about autonomous trucking shakeout, which I thought was really interesting. Like a little bit more market analysis here, right? But you've got several of these autonomous players that have raised a lot of money, entering a time in the economy when interest rates are high. It may be difficult to raise more money. It feels like the technology is still a long way from general consumption or even entering the market in a lot of cases. And so I guess the question is, like, how many of these companies do you actually need competing for this mobility, right? This autonomous truck. And so this article goes on to talk about how a lot of these companies have more cash on their balance sheet than what they're trading for on the stock market. So if you look at the ones that are public, you could buy, what's the example here that they give? I lost the name.
They talk about Too Simple.
Yeah, Too Simple, right? So Too Simple is trading for $2 a share. And so they're sitting here saying, well, as a trader, you could actually just go buy all of Too Simple stock for less than the cash on its balance sheet. And so, like, that's a really strong indicator of what the market right now thinks of the future prospects of autonomous trucking. Like, you are literally worth less than the cash you have in the bank right now, which is like gotta not be a good feeling if you're in the autonomous truck space, right?
Right. And Too Simple is one of those companies, like, it's a challenge because, like, certainly I have no doubt they have a lot of talented engineers, software people, like, doing all the actual difficult things. But certainly, like, it seems like they were somewhat overhyped because, obviously they announced layoffs and then they had all those C-suite executives just totally stepped down, which was kind of ridiculous. And then on top of that,
yeah, but we've seen this before, right, Alex? We've seen this time and time again from these autonomous. They come out, they raise a ton of money, they make a big splash, and then like 3 years later, they're kaput. They're out of business. I mean, I feel like we've seen this now for like, 6-7 years?
Right. Yeah. It's going to be interesting, especially with what seems like is a somewhat of a recession around the corner. It's going to be really interesting to see what their go-to-market strategy is. Like, how are they going to get actual revenue from customers in the door? Because, like, I've been trying to study autonomous trucks a whole bunch, and like for all I hear is like the sensors on those trucks alone are like $500,000. So you got like a $200,000 truck, and you got $500,000 worth of trucks sensors, and so that gives you a $750,000 truck. It's like, I mean, it better drive itself, otherwise that you can't. Like, how do you afford that and then still have a driver in there? It's like the only reason that makes sense if you can get the driver out. And with legislation in many states, like blocking level 4 autonomy completely, it seems like they're going to have a lot of challenges up ahead. Matt, what are your thoughts?
Well, I actually had a question or a couple questions on that. Do you think they're failing because of where the technology is right now and the true potential of the technology, or is it the industry that maybe is causing, like, not properly understanding the industry, regulations? I mean, what do you think is causing these folks to kind of balloon up and then pop so quickly? Is it the strategy, do you think? What are you seeing, Alex, in your or Flint, in your research?
Yeah, I mean, I think in this specific example, because it's not that like Too Simple is about to go out of business. I mean, they've got plenty of cash, right? I think it's more about forward-looking expectations of the general market in terms of how quickly will this come to market. Because I think a few years ago, people were like, oh, autonomous trucking, let's throw billions of dollars in that. That's going to be a game changer. It'll be here in 1 year, right? Like, there'll be self-driving trucks in a year. And that was like 7 years ago. And so I think that this idea that this is just right around the corner is starting to become apparent now that like 3 rounds of these companies have, maybe technologically gotten pretty close to figuring it out. but they can't go to market because of the whole environment, right? Whether it's legislation or tort or whatever it is, like there's just not a very clear path to market. And I think that's becoming pretty evident.
Right. And investors are like, well, I don't want to throw more money after what is it? Good money after bad. It's like,
Yeah, right.
you
Well,
need
look,
to
I
write
mean,
off.
if somebody can figure it out, if you can go to market, this is huge, right? I mean, it would be a game changer in transportation. It would be phenomenal, but it feels like we're just not getting much closer.
Right. And dude, from what I've heard about autonomous vehicles, and obviously the commenters can quote me if I'm wrong or tell me if I'm wrong, but to my understanding, to get like to 95% autonomy, where you're like basically good most of the time, is like easy and the people can do it. But it's that remaining 5% that'll take just a really long time and is the difficult part. So it's maybe I almost kind of feel like, if maybe you had a successful startup and you sold, and then you're like, dude, I'm really good at pitch decks and really good at marketing. Let's just find another impossible idea and just go raise some capital. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of what it feels like. That some people are
Like a
good
challenge.
at marketing. Yeah, they're good at marketing themselves, but they underestimate maybe the challenge that they're taking on. And so they can pitch investors, they have a good network, and they can raise a ton of money. And all of a sudden they realize, oh, even if I hire 1,000 engineers and try to tackle this thing, it's still going to be really difficult. It's just going to be
Yeah,
really difficult.
I've heard this saying, Alex, that there are people that are good at raising money and people that are good at making money, and it's two different. It's two different people.
That's a good one. That's a really good one.